How's everybody doing? I hope you're doing all right. Did you get lots of turkey? Anyway, I want to revisit the building flat here because in part 8, Scratch Building 101, I kind of felt like I left you out to dry there, and I'm sorry about that. I didn't want to just say, yeah, I just do this for the windows. I want to actually do it, like show you, demonstrate it, follow through, and finish this, because it needs to be packed out by 3/8 too, right? Because it's going to stand up 3/8, you know, from the backdrop, right? So we can swing the door inwards a little bit and then have some space at the back to put something behind the windows and give it a bit of depth anyway. So I think I left off where it was just a flat, and now I've just added this piece here as a sort of foundation piece. And what I used for that was I just had some of this. Like, a lot of this is stuff I just from my bin, but there's number 365 80 thou by 100 thou. I mean, you can get away with the varied dimensions here. Like, you don't have to get exact there, right? Like, you'll see I'll be using different size strips for whatever, randomly, whatever is sometimes on hand. But anyway, that's what I used for this piece. And I just capped it, you know, to the flat. I didn't lay it on the face of the flat. I just pushed it up against it and then ran a bead of glue along there, right? And just put a bit of pressure there till it tacks up, and then we'll just do that. And then with this footing here, I'll just use some scrap of the same material, 80 thou by 100. We'll just pack it out a bit and just touch it up and sand it, just so that that sits in the flush. Okay. Okay, so we're going to do a bit of a rain cap fascia on the top of the building here. And like I say, I didn't really think it through that much. I just said, okay, what do I have on hand? So I got number 115, I got number 116, I got number 126. You can see that one is 15 thou by 100, 15 thou by 125, 20 thou by 125. In this kind of scale, it doesn't really matter, right? It's just scenic again, right? These are all similar in width, 100 by 125. So this piece here, I believe, that's a 20. Yeah, it's a 20 by 125 or 100. Anyway, we're going to lay that on here. And so now we got this little conduit going into the power box is going to be in the way, right? So we need to lift that. So let's just see if we can just lift that a bit and pry it out of the way, or pop it off. We can reattach it anyway. I'm just going to yeah, I'll just pull it off. Why not? That's a nice thing about this plastic too, is it's soft, eh? You can just remove a part if you need to. Okay, so I'm gonna keep my glue bottle in the mug. I'm just gonna eyeball this in. It's just I'm not worried about what's behind it, so I'm going to lay that on. So I left a little overrun here, see? Remember how we do that? Maybe I'll move that up just a bit. And then in this case, I'm just going to run it against these little brackets for the conduit. Just going to tuck it up against there. You give this stuff a little push down, it sort of bonds, sets up quick. The other thing is too, is I think I mentioned earlier about if you want a really strong bond with this plastic, just sand the surface of it, you know, of both surfaces, like that, and like that, and then glue it. Oh boy, she'll really grab then. Oh look, we got a bit of run out there. But you know what, that's okay, right? Because this is just the back of the flat. But if you want to fix that, if you stay with this, you can, you know, adjust things like that. So there's some really nice weather coming up here. 8 degrees, you know, in the end of December, beginning of January. It's the way it is up here in the Pacific Northwest and the southern border and coast of British Columbia. The weather in the winter times can just be like a cold summer morning, right? Okay, so that's that. Yeah, that'll do. And then we want to just chase this. Probably do it like, see, remember how I mentioned about gluing the piece, tacking it down first? See, it's not going to move on me now, right? Now I can lift it up like this. You can do it this way too. Go through, you'll find that when you're doing this, you go through quite a bit of cement, right? Because the stuff does evaporate. So you don't want to leave the lid off. Besides, the brush will go stiff on you, but I usually get a couple of bottles when I make a visit to the hobby shop. Pick up trying to get this right so you can see it. Okay, that's the top cap. Okay, so let's address the windows here. I just want to make a quick note about something too. Like if, like you're going to see, like I'm going to allow you to read all my little doodling and scribbling, right? Because that's part of the nature of the content I want to do, is letting you into the artist studio kind of thing. So if you see something like this, 2 plus 2 equals 5. Like, try not to draw conclusions and think, what's the matter with the guy? You know, is he losing it? I don't know, maybe I am, but I'm just saying, like, this might not have anything to do with, you know, like I'll make things like here, 20 millimeter a quarter, or a quarter. Like, it doesn't mean 20 mils even close to a quarter. I had 2 different thoughts going there. Anyway, context, right? Anyway, so here's number 103, 10 thou by 60 thou, right? Remember we used that for the door trim? Remember we went over in part 8 on how to do the door trim? Okay, so I want to show you a little trick on how to do the window frame and to get the 45s lined up, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to just cut a couple pieces like this. Like I'm going to cut one here. I'm going to overrun, right? One there. Then I'm going to cut one here. A little bit of run out on the ends like that. Now the flat becomes a cutting board, right? So we got the upper and lower. Then I'm going to do the same for the verticals since we got the horizontals cut. So we'll go there. And then we need 2 for each window, right? This is the outside trim. Save those little pieces. Okay. I don't want to, like, I'm kind of trying to do it as for demo purposes. So, I mean, I don't normally waste product like this, but that's just a bad habit from the film industry and stuff. It's just, oh, geez, the waste. Hard to break that habit when somebody else is paying for everything. Okay, so now we got those verticals, right? And then our 2 horizontals. Okay? So 2 horizontals and 4 verticals, right? Okay, so this is what we're going to do. So we're going to take the first horizontal piece, rail, or frame, you know, whatever you want to call it. And we're just going to tack it one here, the center line, and one here, okay? Just line it up, just eyeball it in. If you put a little bit of just a tiny puddle bead of glue, it'll still, like, it won't set up right away, so you can slide it around. So remember, just the center line of the window, right? I hope I'm not talking too loud. My wife says, man, your voice, the pipes you have for a little guy, you know, your voice is just loud. Or maybe it's my hearing. You lose your hearing a bit. Everything, all the senses dim when you get older. So yeah, so not here, right? Just here and here. So let's do the same thing on the bottom. Put a bead here on the center line of the window. Bead there on the center line of that window. And I'm just going to lay that in. See, a number 11 blade with a point on it. I love these number 11 blades. I use them not just for cutting, for moving little parts around. Excuse me. Okay. So we got those tacked in place, right? Now let's take the verticals. Let's do the same thing. Little bead in the center there. Just lay it over top of the horizontal rails, right over top. And try to keep it, you know, lined up with the inside here. And if you want to fiddle around with it, that's okay. Time for a little music, eh? Just get these laid up. I don't want to edit these out. I find this very relaxing. I don't know about you, but if you don't, then you probably won't do it, I guess. All right, so let's. Oh, did I cut an extra? Did I? Oh, okay. Okay, so are you seeing where I'm going with this? So we got the frame laid up, tacked at the center of each square in the window, right? So we're going to let that set. Okay, I'm going to cut a few other parts and come back, and then I'll show you what I do here, okay? Okay, so this is the packing out of underneath the door landing there. So I'm just going to use the same material that I used for this foundational fascia. What was that again? That was, yeah, it was this, just to refresh. number 365, 80 by 100. So, and so I just cut 4 pieces. So this is what I'm going to do. Just going to put a little flood of glue in there. I cut these just a little bit proud of the little concrete pad there. So I can, once it sets up tomorrow or something, I'll just hit it with a nail file. Nobody's going to see it anyway. Fine scale is great. Like I've done many fine scale models with rivets, right? And it's important, right? That's a genre of modeling that I would never disrespect because I did it myself. But you only need to do those kind of things where it's necessary, right? And in my case, I'll only apply that orthodoxy to a foreground model or a locomotive or something. See there? So, and then I got one more, right? So let's, because this is 80 thou by 100 thou, let's turn it over and just turn it into a step. Turn it into a little step. Just put a square on there. But let's move that step down just a bit, okay? I'll show you. Like, let's not make it flush with the bottom. And you'll see why. Let's run it out a bit on the bottom so it catches the ground, because the flat will sit back a little bit so that it sits, you know, tight. There's no light under there or whatever, see? This flat's going to sit back just a little bit against, just a little tiny bit, a millimeter or so against the flat. So there you have that, and then we can clean that up with the nail file when, you know, when that's all set. And there you have sort of a little landing step. All right. You can put a little railing there too if you want. Okay. Okay, so we've laid up the 2 window frames on the outside. Remember how we tacked the centers here? And so they're loose on the ends here, see? So what I did was, since they're secured in place, is I just take a ruler or a straight edge. I just eyeball the corner, the center of the corner, you know, just to line this up. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then you can see I draw a line, right? Right across. I mean, it's easier with a square window like this, you know, when both windows are symmetrical. We're going to break up the symmetry of the 2 even numbered windows and the square windows with the 9 pane window, right? But we're just going to do the frame first. See there? So then what we do, okay, so if you go to cut each trim, like in the real world, a finishing carpenter, it's a different thing, right? Like you cut 45, 45, and you do all your frames. If you do that in this scale, you're going to be there all day. And then you're going to have it where you cut pieces that are too short, you know, so you waste, right? I mean, you waste a little bit this way too, so I guess fair is fair. But we're talking about economy of speed maybe here, more than just fiddling about. So what I'll do is I'll just line that up then, and then I'm going to lay my knife right over top of both of them, and I'm going to push down, right? Okay? Like that. Just make sure they don't wander way off on you there, but just get them on there, and then I put my finger over top and press down. Right over top of that line. Okay. Okay, so if you have some that don't quite line up, just you know, revisit it and trim it a bit. Okay. See there? See how they... Did we miss one there? Nope. Okay, there, see? So they're going to move around a bit, but you just line up the corners like that. Let's grab a bit of a glue here. Just put a bead right over top like that. It'll evaporate away. Sorry, did I get off camera there? I gotta remember that. Oops. You gotta watch out sometimes too. If you put too much of a bead there, it softens up the styrene. But I'm kind of trying to keep a pace here. You leave a fingerprint, and you'll have to scrape it away and turn it into a blemish, a weathered blemish, like see here. I got a little bit too much glue there, and it sort of melted away. But you know what I'm going to do with that? I'm going to turn that into corrosion later on in the paint stage. Okay, so there you have the window frames, right? Just give them one more press down. See the corners? I got a bit sort of haphazard with the glue, but you get the idea. So they're done, and they're all square and mitered perfectly. Okay, so now we're going to lay in the window frames. Let me adjust this board here. See how I build on a, just let me throw this in, how I build on a small building board here to slide around with. Well, I do that so that like things like this, I can overhang, right? And still, oops, sorry about that. Back that up a bit. Okay, so each window, in this case, they're both symmetrical, they're both square, they're 1.5 inch square windows. So I don't want to run center to center and run 4 panes. Remember how we talked earlier about balance and odd numbers? So we're going to run 9 panes here, right? And so I marked 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. This is divided up 1.5 inches. They're 1.5 inch in squares, so half, 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 half. So it'll give us 9, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay on. Did I cut those long enough? Yeah, I did. Yeah. So I'm going to lay the same material. I'm just going to put a bead right there. Just going to leave that, right? Remember how we just glue the tail first? And do the middle and the head last, right? Glue the tail first when you're doing strip like this. Put a bead there. Normally, but you get into the flow of things. You're not sloppy. Like I get sloppy. I'm actually considered to be a very undisciplined modeler. But it works, right? Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to lay, I wouldn't do this for a foreground model, but we can lay these underneath here if we want. It'll be easier to glue them. So that's what I'm going to do, right? Okay, so let's just pop these other 3 in. Yeah, sorry, sometimes I gotta just pause for a second to let this glue set up so it doesn't pull away. So, okay, so remember how, okay, so we glued the tail, right? So we want to line up the line, so we just put a bit of pressure on the thumb, just pull this way a bit. Like just hold it out of the way. Bit of glue, just line it up and just give it a little bit of a tug, just get it nice and straight. You know, we'll hit it again in the middle there, but don't do the middle yet on this case. Okay. Time for music again, eh? Let's see. You can check your line on the stub end, see if it's centered. I never did much, wasn't any good at drafting really in school. I think I took grade 8 drafting, but I just learned the basics, right? You know, and then moved on. You know, it's just a square and a pencil. You know, everything's got a square grid laying over top of it in life. Everything does. You know, or I mean, you can compose things that way. Just lay squares over everything. You can find whatever you want to find. All right, so that's that. And then with these here, see those? We can just put a bead of glue on there. I just want to make sure they're straight though. So what I'll do is I'll just lay this on here like this. And this glue, like if you get this glue on a stainless steel rule, it just flakes off. You don't have to worry about, like this cement, like CA is horrible. I use CA, but I can't stand using super glue, to be honest with you. But it's got to be in your kit. You notice how with CA, when you first crack the bottle, like you don't need any set or accelerator, it just grabs right away. It's like a can of ginger ale when you first pop it. It's nice and tonicky, and if it sits, it goes flat. CA goes flat too, eh? It's a bit of a myth putting it in the fridge keeps it, but each to his own. I always keep a few small. I buy just the very small bottle you can find with CA, because you buy the big bottle, it goes flat on you after a while, and then you're buying that accelerator crap, that spray crap, which I never used ever. Right, stuff is so lethal. There's the industrial symmetrical but balanced with odd number pane window, right? See? And we can put a piece of acetate. I'll show you that too, maybe tinted acetate. Okay, so I'll just add this part in before we move on to the packing out of the flat, the frame in behind here. But let me just quickly, just since we're on the windows here, let me just point something out to you. So you can get all different kinds, like actually Evergreen has clear. 9007 clear. This is 15 thou thick. I like to use 15 thou. I like to use this. It's a good compromise. And then, you know, there's this, like, I don't know what, I got so much stuff in my scrap box. I don't know what this was. I think it's a type of Lexan or something, or thin. Yeah, I'm not sure. There's that too. All right. Remember when I talked about the tree reflection? Anyway, we'll revisit that part on the lights and so on. Anyway, and then there's this here. It's sort of a dull protection. I don't know what this is. I can't remember. I think it's plexi or something. And just, I want to show you one more thing. You know the paint, the Tamiya paint has, I've seen people mention it before about, or they've asked the question, you know, what do I use the clear, like the clear colors for? So here's a piece that I had. This was plain. Is this 10 thou? Yeah, it might have been 15. Yeah, actually, I think it's 10. See this here? What I did with this was, I don't know where this ring came from. I might have put something down on there in the shop, but I just took the Tamiya clear in the bottle. I put it in the airbrush and I laid this down. And I just sprayed it, you know, like a whole sheet. And then I ended up with this sort of tint, right? So here, I'll show you what it looks like. See there? Isn't that nice? Sort of scales things down a bit, you know. Sort of, if you put something behind there, it's darker. See, not like here. Watch. See, you can see everything there. But then, you know, with the blue, the sky blue behind that, like it won't look the same. Right? So that's a filter, right? Like a filter. Anyway, thought I'd share that. See, I might go with a piece of that actually, because the green and the trees, you know, that kind of tone is similar, right? Okay. Okay. Coffee break time. So now we have our building flat generally laid out. We'll talk about this for a minute. So we've completed the windows. We've got all the basic gack here. You'll see some notes here like generator I'd written here. I mean, this could be anything you want. Like, I'm just going to leave this alone for now, but it could be a generator there of a conduit, or it could just be you could cut that off like an old rain spout too, or something, with a, you know, a barrel down there for character or something, you know, or you just use your imagination. This area here is space. We're going to leave it for now. I mean, there could be a sign in here like, you know, ABC cart and cartage, you know, whatever, you know. But that's all like something you can determine as you sort of go back and forth on the layout and you sort of stand back and look at it, right? You just let the model evolve. You know, we just move ahead with it and let it evolve into the overall scene. Okay, so we're going to have a look at packing out the rear of the flat. And what we want to do is let's clean this up right here. Let's just, well, I'll leave a little bit there on that top trim. I'll cut off that conduit there. And then, yeah, clean that up too. So I left a little bit of the foundation to overhang a bit in this top cap, because it would, right? Because it's away from the building here, and it's going to be behind the tree, you won't see it, but. So, okay, so I got some scrap here. This is 30 thou. I use a lot of 30 thou for, you know, backup, you know, for framing stuff up and reinforcing. Because when you're working with thin 15 thou plastic like this, you know, it can, you know, it gets a bit flimsy, eh? But, you know, like I say, it's a backdrop. So, anyway, so I just scribed, what did we decide to go with there? 3/8 or 10 mil. Close. 10 mil or 3/8 or 9.5 mil. Doesn't matter really with this. So then you just scribe 2 or 3 times. It just snaps, right? Snaps away. You don't want to. They don't sell strips like this size anyway. You just buy the sheet and cut your own. And then there's. That should be enough material there. Okay, so what we want to do first is just tack a piece here, right? Like that. So I'm going to tack down here first. Remember how we talked about doing the tail first? That set up. I'm going to tilt it back just a little bit. Okay. That way it'll help lean into the backdrop. Set that up a bit more so you can see that. Okay, so on to the packing out of the flat or the Strongback application here. So I'll show you, I attached some of them, but we use what we call, well, one of the terms in film and sometimes in theater is called the Strongback. This is really a brace to hold a scenic flat, right? So I'm going to turn it upside down because we need to deal with this sticking out. So I have another piece of plywood here. Just to mention that, like, I have lots of little pieces of plywood kicking around scrap, and I just square them up or find square pieces. You know, they're all 3/8 thick, right? But birch plywood, you know, so it's straight, or Russian plywood they call it. That's really good. It's got like 11 ply, I think. Anyway, so you can see that I put the bottom plate on here, right? See the bottom plate here that we did earlier? That's really what that's called, a bottom plate. And then we run these Strongbacks, right? Called Strongbacks, to make the flat rigid. So I cut them all. I just drew a line here and I cut them all at, those would be roughly 3 3/8. We want to have the top plate of the roof so it's just down below the front of the facade, right? Just to hint at a roof there, because if you put any details like little vents and stuff, well, they'll sit down in kind of. It'll give it a little more depth. If you put a vent or two, it helps add to that illusion. So, and then the way I lay these in is I just tack, just randomly. I thought I'd put one on each side of the door, of course, one on each end. I'm not going to run one in the center of the window. I mean, you could if it was two separate rooms, would be a good idea. But when you look in, I want it to be one big space. And also these middle Strongbacks, like this is an outer one, which is the same thickness or width as the bottom plate and top plate. But these inner ones are at least 30 millimeters less. Right? It doesn't really matter. And the reason why is if you want to put a back, like a visual set deck or something, you know, it'll sit in there and then still be flush to the backdrop or the inside of it. It won't push the flat out. So you can, you know, put a photo back there or something, right? Like that's where I don't mind using photos, you know, for that kind of, like the photo of inside of a building or something. It works better, I think. Right? And then your glass glazing is right up against the frame there. Okay, so what I do here is, let me pop one of these in. I don't really need another one. Well, I'll put one. No, I don't want to put that there because, yeah, I can put it here, I guess. Well, never mind, I got one in there. So this one's not glued in, but remember how I said, so we just glue the tail, just the tail. Set it up that way so that you, like, these are all glued in place for the sake of economy of time. So now that's glued in, right? So you can square that up a couple of different ways. You can throw a square on there and then just line that up and then just tack it here. Or you can do it this way too. Get a nice square ruler, just line it up like that. Okay. And then we're going to lay in this top plate, the roof piece, right? And it's a little bit proud on both ends, which I'm okay with. And so what I'm going to do is just lay that in there like that. Now normally it'd be nice to have a centerpiece here, but If you want, you can put one in there, but we don't really have to. And then that's already tacked up good. I'm just going to run a little bit of pull on my finger here back. Just going to run a bead along there, both sides. And you can lift it up a bit too. I like to do this. Just lift it a bit and then if you get a little bit of the glue squeezing out, you know you got a good bond, eh? That's nice. There. Okay, so there she is standing on her own, right? And then if you want, you can, these are little gussets here, little 45 gussets. They're used in the real world for like a Strongback brace. And you can just tack one in there, just in one spot temporary, just to, let me just put a little bit on there. You won't see that, it'll be behind the fence. And we'll put one down here too. Excuse my arm there. So there's a miniature movie set, theater flat, background building. So we can finish it up. Yeah, you can keep going on it if you want, you know. I'll add a few roof fits, but I'm not going to do this until it's all in place. And maybe if I have one little pipe here or 3 little vents somewhere here, I'll just stand back and look. You know, remember how we talked about balance? Like maybe over here it might work because there's a lot going on over here already. So let me zoom out a bit for you, a bit more. Yeah, there. So maybe we'll have something going on here. But then you got the telephone pole and maybe a wire cable coming down. Or those are things that we can compose later, right? So we'll clean up the ends a bit and call her done. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a great day.